and welcome back to the Two Furs Boxing Show, episode 4. Very nearly forgot to turn on the mic, so luckily that's all done. Yeah, good weekend of boxing, I suppose. I did manage to miss the Kurbanoff-Smith fight, but I've heard that that was a very controversial decision that didn't go Liam Smith's way. Always a kind of risk when you're fighting on away territory, I suppose. You know, we've even had that happen over here. I think the one that sits, or the one that's come straight to mind from recent memory, is Miguel Vazquez when he fought Lewis Ritson. You know, sometimes you know the judges just don't get it right, especially like nowadays. I don't know if there was a crowd at that fight, but crowds, when it's in the home territory, they can tend to sort of sway the judge's mind somehow. It's an unprofessional manner. If that is indeed the case, like I said, I haven't watched the fight. I don't know if it was a close fight. But it's just to kind of address really where Liam Smith goes for here. Like if it was a good fight and you know there's potential to kind of right the wrong, I think he should chase the rematch, because I don't really know where he's going. The sort of 4 world titles are tied up at that 154 pound division with Charlo and Castano, so you're kind of going to be waiting for the winner of that at least anyway. So yeah, I think a rematch, if it was a good fight, if people want to see that again, maybe there was talks of that. I mean, I have no idea what really happened, but talks that it was going to take place on DAZN, so that they rescheduled it all so that it could go on DAZN and not clash with Canelo Saunders, and then Eddie Hearn put it on DAZN anyway. So love that, absolutely love that. So yeah, you know, maybe a deal can be done. A chance for Liam Smith to kind of redeem himself in any way. Haven't really seen or heard anything from him since the defeat. But obviously wish him all the best. I don't know what other options there really are out there. Unless, you know, he's kind of, I don't know, I don't think he's, you know, got too much choice at the moment. What I was going to say was, you know, Soko, but Smith won't want to take that fight. Like, there's just not any gain for him, and I think he's quite high up in the WBO rankings. Still want to see him versus Jesse Vargas, but yeah, if it hasn't happened now, it's not going to happen. It's the way that you feel about a lot of fights, but yeah. Anyway, on to the big one, Canelo Saunders. Brilliant fight. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's been a while since I stayed up that late for a fight. Nothing sort of like springs to mind. Canelo did really good, and Billy Joe Saunders, you know, I think he's done a right job of making himself known in the fight. I think you could kind of give the first round to Billy Joe Saunders, Canelo kind of taking the rest of the early rounds, and then I've kind of changed my mind on this because I've kind of seen it that Billy Joe Saunders was having some success, but I really do feel that Canelo is that good of a fighter. He's a proper elite fighter that he let Billy Joe Saunders back into the fight. And I think, you know, watching little snippets of it, that's just the way that I see it. We know that Canelo, you know, likes to take a couple of minutes to a round off. And it's the same with, you know, what Lomachenko does sometimes, you know, downloading the data into the matrix. You know, it's a 12-round fight. You can't put your foot on the gas all the way through those 12 rounds. So, yeah, I think it was a good game plan by Canelo. Saunders, again, like, he had some success, but he just wasn't, you know, it wasn't like the Lemieux type performance that I think some people were expecting when these two were coming together. You know, he was a big underdog for a reason, and it was just, it's not that like he, what's it called? Oh, it's so annoying. It's not that like he wasn't there for the occasion, if that makes sense. You know, throughout the entire fight week, people are like, oh, he's going to be thriving with 70,000 Mexican fans and things like that. You know, it's not like the bright lights like just got to him. You know, he's been on the stage before. you know, done with many good occasions, won a world title, defending it in away territory against Lemieux, as well as other pointless defences, but we'll just skip over that. You know, I don't think it was that. I think it's just wasn't doing it quick enough in a way. But then you're going against someone like Canelo, so you're going to be a little bit wary. But you know, I guess I just kind of like to see the sort of like go broke or go home attitude. Can Saunders really recover from that? So, you know, I kind of got to round 8, and I'm going to have a look at my scorecard real quickly because I can't remember exactly what it was. I think I had Canelo winning, but like only slightly, because you had to give Saunders a few of the rounds. Yeah, so I had it 77-75 for Canelo. And I think, yeah, that's about right. I think by that point, you could kind of see Canelo, you know, up in the ante, especially in the 8th. Caught him with that uppercut, which just sent Billy Joe Saunders' eye into hell, basically. You know, managed to survive the round. And then, yeah, by the end of the 8th, he was pulled out by his corner. Couldn't continue with an eye like that. A lot of people sort of saying that he quit. I hate that word. I just hate it. I just don't really... I don't want to see words like that. You know, these guys are kind of going into the ring. Yeah, fair enough, they're getting paid a lot of money, but they're putting very clearly their bodies and their lives on the line for our entertainment. So, I don't know. It wasn't great to obviously know the character that Billy Joe Saunders is and what he's said in the past, especially the Dubois TalkSport interview that has sort of resurfaced over the last couple of days. So can he recover from it? Like, yeah, I can, but it is going to be a long, long, long road back to essentially the top to become a world champion again. I don't really know where he's kind of going to go from here. I think the Eubank Jr fight is, you know, the rematch is still a brilliant fight to make, but whether Eubank kind of wants to take that, whether Saunders wants to take it because he, you know, will feel like he's giving Eubank a big payday. I think I saw that somewhere. I kind of see that, even though Eubank has earned plenty throughout his career. So I didn't understand it fully, but I get the idea that, you know, why would you kind of take that? But look, Billy Joe Saunders, it's going to be a hard road to recovery. He's going to be out for a long time. He's going to have a comeback opponent, somebody relatively easy to get back into the swing of things. And yeah, I don't know. I guess he's just going to have to kind of play it by ear. But I think that's probably... I mean, he could drop down and face Golovkin, but, you know, everybody wants to face Golovkin. And I reckon with that eye injury that Chris Eubank's probably going to get there first, you know. Unless there's Murata, Andrade. But I think dropping down to 160, I think that's just... You know, if Billy Joe Saunders can do it, we'll just have to see how much weight he puts on after this fight, because he is notoriously known for blowing up in weight. I fully expect, I was saying this to somebody that I was speaking to yesterday, a guy called Henry, a great guy, does loads of good content on his channel, and, you know, has worked for the old company that I used to work at, Boxing Social, in the past, done some good work on there. Yeah, we were talking about, what was it, where he can kind of go. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really know where he can kind of go. But we were talking about how just everybody wants to face Golovkin right now. That was it. It's just because, you know, don't get me wrong, Golovkin's last performance against Serezimita, or however you say it, the Polish mandatory challenger. Golovkin did look really good, but it was that kind of opponent that it was easy to look good against. So, I don't know. I think that's what Billy Joe Saunders will be wanting to do straight away. But yeah, blows up in weight all the way up to cruiserweight. I fully expect this next fight to be at cruiserweight. But yeah, you know, good luck to Billy Joe Saunders. It's a bit of pill to swallow, especially like that. The way that the fight was being billed and things like that. You know, but he's got plenty of time. It's just whether can he actually recover. But I believe he can, and I think, you know, the biggest fight out there on the table is obviously the Chris Eubank Jr. rematch. You know, Chris Eubank looked all right in his last fight. Didn't look amazing. I heard a lot of people, I think it was namely Shane McGuigan, who kind of said that he looked a little bit flat and just not quite right at the weight. Didn't have his power. But I don't know. I like Chris Eubank Jr. and I think, yeah, he'll be lobbying for the Billy Joe Saunders rematch at some point, probably when there's a world title on the line. I think I've heard him say in the past that the fight doesn't make sense without a world title, so yeah, we'll see that. For Canelo, it's got to be Caleb Plant, 100%. You know, Canelo has just shown that he's the best of this era. And I'm struggling to pick somebody that, you know, gives him, you know, not necessarily a good fight, but who beats him. I really don't know, unless you go up to 175 pounds. You know, you've got Artur Beterbiev, but Beterbiev didn't even look good in his last fight, really. So, yeah, like, I'd give Canelo a pretty good chance of beating Beterbiev at some point. You know, size, obviously these weight classes are made for a reason. And I know it will appear to some that it's quite ludicrous for Canelo to go back up to 175 pounds and face one of the hardest hitting light heavyweights of recent times. But I just think that Canelo is that talented. You've got to take a lot into account of when we're talking of a potential fight, you know, the inactivity of Beterbiev and things like that. I just think Canelo would do really well there in that fight particularly. And I just want to see him in a competitive fight. We'll come on to Caleb Plant. It's got to be Caleb Plant. He's, you know, Canelo has deserved the right to be undisputed. He's just knocking them all over. You know, I can't remember the last competitive fight he had. Was it Danny Jacobs maybe? And still, it was a close but clear win for Canelo. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, Canelo deserves to be undisputed, so I want to see him get the Caleb Plant fight, and I really hope it happens. I don't care that, you know, boxing politics might get in the way. I think, you know, Canelo said that he's going to work with Eddie Hearn for a couple more fights, and you know, hopefully they're able to pull it off. I would imagine that there's going to be so much money on the table for that fight that Caleb Plant can't say no 100%. Right, so that is all of the weekend's action. I mean, we could touch on, Owen Soto against what was it, Takayama? Was a pretty interesting fight. I think it was quite even, really. I mean, I think Soto was controlling most of the fight, but Takayama was still very much in there, and I think it was quite a premature stoppage from what I remember. Saw a lot of people complaining about that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure that they're going to put Soto in with Kayaguchi next. But yeah, I just felt a little bit bad for Takayama. You know, been around in the sport for a while now. Didn't look hurt. You know, you could see videos of him punching after being stopped. Like, he didn't look like he was ready to stop fighting. That's just the way it goes sometimes. Soko and Conway. One of the scorecards was 97 to 93 or something like that. Let me find it. For Conway, I have no idea how on earth does that happen. Don't get me wrong, love Keenan and Conway. You know, great little fighter at the domestic scene. I just felt that in this fight he was, you know, just a little bit too outclassed. You know, Soko, I think he'll go on to do good things. I don't know if he's the next big star at 154 pounds. I think you'll give him a couple more fights like that. One's ideally where he can really go and impress against the opposition. Against Conway, I was kind of just felt that, you know, Soko was just cruising. Found it quite easy. Wasn't really there to like make a statement or anything. And always felt that Conway was going to be a hard guy to stop anyway. But yeah, so it was 97 to 92 for Conway, and Did not see that. Even with the knockdown, Conway knocked Soko down in what, the 9th round or something. Yeah, I just don't understand. Don't understand why that was a thing. It was, even with the knockdown, I don't think it was that close at all. I don't know how you could give Conway that many rounds. And as far as I'm aware, it hasn't come out that, you know, they scored it for the wrong person or the wrong way around or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. Oh well. Props to Suleiman Sissoko. Wish him all the best for the future. I think there's a couple of, like I said, a couple more interesting fights like that against Conway, sort of domestic level fighters. Oh dear, almost knocked over the telly, jeez. Who can I fight? There was one on here, Jack Kolkai. I'd really like to see him against Jack Kolkai. Gave Abbas Barral a brilliant fight, tough fight, and beat him last year. So yeah, I think that might be the next, you know, that's a good, if he wants a kind of like step up fight, I think that's a good one. And after that, like, I think him versus Tim Tszyu would be absolutely fantastic. But again, maybe Tszyu is a little bit, you know, like Tszyu is just one of the best 154 pounders in the world right now. But I'm just trying to plot out, you know, what would be the best sort of path. But I think Jack Kolkai definitely as a next step up for Sissoko would be a really good shout. Okay, so that's all of the weekend's action covered now. So we forgot about a couple of the undercard fights. I mean, I don't really touch on the undercard fights, but sometimes it's just good to mention the ones that I have watched. It does get a little bit tough when you're obviously working in a bar, finishing at sort of like 1 o'clock in the morning, running back home. The zone stream starts at 1 o'clock, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, on to this weekend's. Big fight for Joshua Buatsi against Daniel Bienda dos Santos. Never heard of him. Never heard of him before in my life. 15-0, 8 knockouts. Who has he? He hasn't fought anyone that I recognise. I recognise Johan Bloyer. Wasn't that somebody that Billy Joe Saunders fought a very, very long time ago, way before he was world champion? That sounds about right. I don't know what happened there. I've lost it. But okay, Joshua Buatsi versus Daniel Bienda dos Santos. Yeah, I mean, look, it was short notice. I just don't know what they're doing with Buatsi right now. It's really irritating me. Look, I don't know much about Dos Santos, but I imagine that I'll have a little bit of a research and it will take Buatsi a couple of rounds. That's just the way that it's kind of going for Buatsi right now. He needs a proper fight. Before COVID, we were talking about Buatsi facing Blake Caparello, which was, you know, a pretty decent step up compared to who he'd fought before. And that was going to be a WBA world title eliminator. Like, what is happening? I really don't know what they're doing with Buatsi. And he's a talented guy. Really talented 175 pounder. Didn't look great against his last fight. Maybe that's the reason that they've given him this. But I would just prefer to see him face someone a little bit better. You know, the Johnson fight isn't going to happen now because they're probably more likely to make Johnson versus Yard or Johnson versus... what is his name? Oh my god, Lyndon Arthur. Jesus Christ. Apologies, Lyndon. Buatsi versus Craig Richards, I think, is just a fantastic fight to make for later this year. And, you know, I don't give Dos Santos much of a chance. You know, never write anyone off. Like I said, I haven't looked the guy up, but... I think Buatsi, now that he's teamed up with Virgil Hunter, think you're going to see a really good performance from him. You know, didn't look great last time, so I think this time he's really going to want to impress everybody. And yeah, I love Joshua Buatsi. I can't wait to see him back in the ring, and I just hope it's a good performance from him. Because if it's another bad performance, I don't know where he's going to go, what's going to happen next. So yeah. Shame about the main event. I was really looking forward to Harper and, I don't really want to say it wrong, but Mi Choi. Terry Harper, you know, sort of on that road to Undisputed, and has a great story. Would have loved to have seen that fight. Can't wait to see it when it gets rescheduled. But yeah, I literally completely forgot about this fight until probably 30 minutes ago when I was sort of preparing to do this. Brandon Figueroa versus Luis Nery as well, this is what also surprised me, for the WBC World Super Bantamweight title, obviously. But the WBA Super Bantamweight title is also on the line. So it slipped completely under my radar that MJ Akhmadaliev has even vacated the title. So, this fight is now an actual big unification fight. The winner's obviously going to go on to face Stephen Fulton, so, hopefully there's no injuries and things like that. Hopefully it's a sort of clean-cut fight. And I just fancy Nery in this one. I think he's moved up one weight, but he's just a devastating puncher. And I think Figueroa he's just such a young guy. I think it's just a little too soon for him. I don't know. I think, Figueroa will do well. Like, he'll stay inside in the pocket, and he's got that kind of style to just be all entertaining and stay up close, and he will give Nery a good tough fight. But I think Nery, just the power is just, it's devastating almost for being at that low of a weight. Like, it was still fresh in my memory what he did to Yamanaka. So yeah, I don't know. I think you'll probably see a very close competitive fight. But I think essentially the pressure and the punching power of Nery is going to take its toll on Figueroa, and you'll probably see a stoppage in sort of like the later rounds. But good fight, really good fight, and I'm looking forward to that now that I know it's happening this weekend. So yeah, can't wait to see that. Should be a really good one. And yeah, look forward to whoever the winner is to go and face Stephen Fulton. I think that's brilliantly set up. I love it when things like that are already set up like that. Okay, so that's pretty much like all the boxing from the last weekend and this weekend. We're going to quickly touch on a couple of news pieces. Obviously, after Canelo's win over Billy Joe Saunders, Chris Eubank Jr, as we've mentioned it before, was lobbying for the Canelo fight. Called him out saying something like, if you want to face a real Brit, and you want a good fight, ring him up. Let's get that fight on. And yeah, I've seen that fight being called for a while now. Not necessarily called for, but mentioned. Just because I think it would be a brilliant fight. Don't get me wrong, I think Canelo wins that fight, and I'm a big Chris Eubank Jr. fan. But yeah, I think, it's kind of one of the things that, would Canelo be able to stop Eubank Jr.? Because he's just as tough as nails. Really has his father's chin. Eubank doesn't necessarily punch the hardest, but it's the work ethic, the engine, how many punches that he throws throughout a fight. Not necessarily they're all going to hit Canelo, but it's going to keep him thinking, keep him busy. And yeah, I just think it would be a really fun fight. I don't want it to happen right now, obviously, because Canelo is doing his thing at 168 and is going to be undisputed, or trying to be undisputed against Caleb Plant. Eubank, is probably going to hopefully and eventually get the Golovkin fight, so hopefully that happens. And then, I think later down the line, I'd like to see that fight, but I don't really know why Eubank's called. I mean, I know why Eubank is called for that fight. It's because there's a lot of money to be made by fighting Canelo. But I just don't see it happening just yet. So many hiccups today, honestly. Apparently, was also in the news, Golden Boy is thinking of moving their entire stable over to Triller. Now, Triller is kind of like a social media conglomerate that has kind of moved into the space of boxing in, the last year or so. I think Tyson Jones was their first event. And, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with DAZN, why they'd want to leave DAZN. From what I see, they seem to be doing pretty good options for all parties involved, including Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. Don't tend to see Golden Boy on DAZN too much, so it's not like we'll be missing a lot, but I I like all boxing, you know. I like that option being there. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't know enough about Triller. I mean, I remember the last Triller event when we were talking about UK fans. That's the thing with DAZN, is that DAZN has become a worldwide streaming service. Triller is still just US based. So I don't want to see Golden Boy go to Triller, to be perfectly honest. You know, I love seeing Ryan Garcia on my DAZN account for $1.99 a month. Who wouldn't? So yeah, don't really want to see Golden Boy go to Triller. I think it would be a crying shame if they pass on what DAZN has given to them thus far. And yeah, we'll see. It will all come out, I'm sure, in the next sort of couple of weeks. Last thing to really touch on is obviously Ramirez-Taylor is finally set for May 22nd. I mean, we kind of knew that it was set, but you know, crowds, venue, I don't know. It's just been a mess. Absolute mess, that event, and it's a crying shame that has happened to an event that's meant to be, you know, one of the biggest fights of the year. It just hasn't been promoted right. I'm sorry, but it just hasn't. And you know, I really feel for Josh Taylor. You know, he's kind of flying out there. He's not going to have home fans being able to fly out there. You know, we kind of knew that there was going to be a problem, but at least give him the proper backing and promotion to, you know, make it a really big fight. Like, where is the UK broadcaster for Ramirez-Taylor? Like, please announce it. You cannot possibly let this fight go without a UK TV broadcast. It's ridiculous. So I hope that gets sorted. I really do. I want to see Josh Taylor become undisputed champion on May 22nd, because that's my prediction for that fight. He'll do it by either a late stoppage or by points. Yeah, just a mess of a promotion, really. And it's really unlike Bob Arum and Top Rank. You know, what they did with Valdez Burchelt was absolutely fantastic. You know, promotion all the way through, leading up to the event. So yeah, it's very unlike them. It's a shame that it's kind of been this poorly dealt with. But I look forward to it. But I just really hope that there's going to be a UK TV broadcaster. Yeah. So that's everything for this week. I absolutely love saying so, if you haven't been able to tell. Thank you very much for watching. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, I don't know, comment something. Please be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. And yeah, thank you all for watching. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.